halfway down, 26b. Itmar. Itmar means it was stated. It was stated by Amirayim. Here it happens to be first generation in Eretz Yisrael. 26b. Kaimetz me'emes matish shirayim b'achila. When does the kaimetz, the burning of the kaimetz, allow for the remnants to be eaten? Because you have to burn it. But when is it considered that you burnt it? Rabbi Chanina, you have to put it on the altar. When is that considered done? When you just drop it there? Rabbi Chanina Omer Mishamash L'Bayasar. Rabbi Chanina says when the fire takes hold of it. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Mishatatzis Bayasar Berubad. When the fire burns the majority of it. So we have Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Yochanan. Two opinions. One is when it gets caught on fire. The other one is when it's burnt majority. Amalei Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Bar of Yitzchak. Rabbi Yehuda says to Rabbi Bar of Yitzchak. Rabbi Yehuda was in Eretz Yisrael. Was in Bavel. Is in Kedisi. He's the founder of Yeshiva there. He's explaining the opinions of specifically he's going to be explaining the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. Asbelach time with Rabbi Yochanan. Let me give you the explanation for Rabbi Yochanan. Amarkravi hine ala kita harz ke kita rakivshan. The smoke of the ground came up like the smoke of a furnace. Now, the word haktara, which means to offer it, to burn it, really means smoke it. Keter means smoke. So the haktara of the korban. So when does it smoke? Ein kivshan malakita rachatzatzar berubai. The furnace doesn't give off smoke until it's majority burnt. That's when it starts to give off its what is it? As expression when it gives out like big puffs of it bellows out or something, big puffs of smoke. Okay. So that's a proof that the word keter means that it's majority burnt. Amalei Ravan Baravad L'Rava. Ravan Baravad tells to Rava, Amri Talmidcha, your students have told me, Amar Rav Amram, in the name of Rav Amram. We had this expression before where the students of Rava say something in the name of Rav Amram, and I don't know why that's significant. Students of Rava say in the name of Rav Amram. Tanya, Eily Dvarim Shedarken Likarv Balayla. There was a brisa that says that which things are allowed to burn the entire night. Things that are put on the altar at night. For example, the limbs and the fats that you can put on after the sun has set. And they become consumed and continue the entire night. But things that are brought by day before the sunset. For example, the scoop of flour and oil, the frankincense, and the ketairos, and minchas kayanim, and minchas kayim Mashiach. These are menachos that are burnt. They're burnt by day, and minchas nesachim, the flour and oil that comes together with the sacrifice, shemal maktir mivaya shemesh, that comes. There's a problem here. It says mivaya shemesh. Mivaya shemesh means after the sunset. Okay. You just said that these things are brought by day. So what do you mean mivaya shemesh after sunset? Im baya shemesh, it means together with the sunset. How do you know that they can continue to burn these things that are brought together with the sunset, continue to burn the whole night? This is the laws of the Eila. It's coming to include things that are brought by day that they can continue all night. The Gemara asks, well, this is the question from Ravan Bar Ravada to Rava. If you're bringing it together with sunset, it's impossible that it burnt majority before the sunset. You're bringing it at the sunset. If it needs to be caught on fire, according to Rabbi Chanina, so we understand why it can continue the whole night, because it did its purpose, caught on fire. That's when the kaimetz is matter the shirayim. So everything makes sense. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, that in order for the kaimetz to allow the shirayim to be burnt, it needs to be majority burnt. So if you put it on at sunset, and then it becomes nightfall, It wasn't majority burnt. The Gemara says like kasha. You're confusing two things. It's not a question. Kan likle, kan lahate. The Bais is saying when the Mizbeach absorbs it, when it gets brought on the altar and it continues to remain on the altar. The Rabbi Yochanan was saying when the shirayim is allowed to be eaten. When it's allowed to be eaten, after it's burnt majority. When does the Mizbeach absorb it? If it's put on right before sunset. They're together with the sunset is also good. But that doesn't mean you can eat the shirayim yet. You still have to wait. Okay. Taisus mentions that this whole discussion could have been about the limbs of a offering that also is supposed to be burnt before the flesh is eaten. But Taisus says that if the limbs were lost, since the sacrifice would still be good, so we don't want to get into that detail of saying in a case where the limbs are there. But the kaimetz always needs to be burnt before the shirayim are eaten, so that's why this was a case that would not have any caveats that would have adjusted the ruling. Okay. Rabbi Lezer Masnila Mivaya Shemesh. Rabbi Lezer, rather. He learned the Brisa that it says after the sunset. That's a problem. These things are not put on after the sunset. He said that they were put on before we're on the first wide line of the 26b. So, umukim labapaikim, and he says that we're talking about things that were on the altar by day, but they jumped off the altar, and we're talking about that you put them back on. They popped off with the fire. Rabdimi comes. Rabdimi was one of the people that traveled back and forth from Babel to Eretz Yisrael, and he says in the name of Rabbi Yanai, who was in Eretz Yisrael, that we're dealing with things that popped off the altar. Mi Amar Rabbi Yanai Hachi, did Rabbi Yanai really say that? We're in Babylonia now discussing what Rabbi Yanai said in Eretz Yisrael. V'Amar Rabbi Yanai, but we have a statement from Rabbi Yanai that Ketayres shepakim al gam mezbeach afilu krotin shbayin machzir noisan, that small pieces of Ketayres, even you don't put them back on, even if it's whole pieces. And in the Brisa we said, one of the things that you put on the altar by day was Ketayres. And that continued saying that you put it on after the sun sets. So it must be talking about Ketayres. V'tani Rab Chanina bar Menumi b'debei Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Rab Chanina bar Menumi taught in the house of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, that you only put back on the altar actual sacrifices of an Eily, actual parts of an Eily, of a burnt offering. You don't put on Ketayres. The Gemara says, okay, fine. Sami mikan Ketayres. Erase that one word, and everything else fits. Amar Abasi, ki pashat Rabbi Elazar ben Menachos. I'm going to have like 3 or 4 questions here, interesting questions. When Rabbi Elazar learned Menachos, Boi hachi, he had the following question. Kaimitz sidre, the kaimitz that was put down on the altar, the siddur lavas amaracha, and you built the fire over it. Mahu, what's the din? Derech haktar b'kach, is that the way it's supposed to be burnt? Is that the way of burning? Or ain't derech haktar b'kach, or is that not the way of burning it? You know, the heat rises, but nevertheless the things on the bottom are going to get burnt as the coals and the hot wood collapse over it, so it will burn it. The Gemara says teiku. Boy Chizkiah. Chizkiah has a question. Ivarim shesidron. Let's say you put on limbs of an offering. V'sidr aleim asamaracha. And over the limbs you organize the planks of wood. Mahu ala eitzim amarachmana dafka ala eitzim. It says that it should be put on the wood. It's not on the wood. You put it under the wood. Since it says that it needs to be on the altar, you can do it either way. You can put it on the altar as well, directly. Teiku. Gemara leaves it as a question. On the altar would mean under the wood, because it's directly on the altar. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha has a question. Limbs that were organized on the side of the fire. What's the din? Ali b'demand amar al mamash. You see, it said it needs to be on the wood. According to the one that says al, the word al means on. Like tibaylach, we don't have any question. It needs to be on top. It's not on top. I'm turning the page now. The al eitim ksiv, it needs to be on top of the wood. Ki tibaylach ali b'demand amar al b'samach. According to the opinion that says that al means on the side, there's sources. Al could literally, the way we translate it is that it means on top, but there are sources in Tanakh that al means near. Cities that were al. It's another word for eitzel.
You change the word over
So what's the din? According to this opinion that the word al could be used like that. So if you put the limbs of the sacrifice next to the fire. Hachinami al b'samach. Do we say that here al means next to? Or maybe on the fire means the same, on the wood means the same as on the altar. And although on the altar doesn't mean next to the altar. Ma hasam al mamish, hachinami al mamish. Just like on the altar means on top. Also on the wood means on top, not on the side. Take it. Okay, we don't have an answer to that. The next Mishnah. Kaimetz miyutei makaves rubai. A minority of the kaimetz affects the validity of the majority of the kaimetz. That means every part is significant. If you're missing a drop, it's no good. Isaran miyutei makaves rubai. The isaran of flour, which is 43 and a fifth egg size of the flour. That's the mincha. A drop missing affects the validity of the majority. Hayayin miyutei makaves rubai. The wine, which could be Shlishis a hin. I forget how many lug is in a hin. 12, I think. So Shlishis a hin. You need 4 lug. And a small amount would affect the validity of the majority. Hashem and miyutei makaves rubai. The oil as well, the same thing. The flour and the oil, if you're missing one, it affects the validity of the other. The same as with the scoop that you take of the flour and the oil. In the frankincense, if one's missing, it affects the validity of the other. That's the Mishnah. We're going to have several Mishnayos like this in a row that are going to talk about the validity of one affects the other. So we'll see. Very interesting things. The Gemara is just going to quote Psukim to show that if one is missing, it affects the validity of the other. And as we know, it's either because of a repetition, because the pasuk says it twice, that means it's ma'akiv. That's what we've learned before. Or it uses the word chukah. Chukah means it's a statute, and that means that it's, if you're missing it, it's no good. Or it's going to be, it says v'haya, or tihiena, or something. It uses the word so it shall be, and so that's going to affect the validity. It's just a bunch of verses that are going to prove each one of the cases. My timer, what's the reason? That means, what's the source? So on Makra we have a pasuk. It says Malaikum Trei Zimni. It says that you need to take the scoopful. It says it twice. If it's not a full scoopful, it's not good. And it says it twice. That means it's makiv. Isarin Mute Makiv Esrube My Taima. What's the reason that the 10th of the ephah of flour, the 43 and a fifth egg, that's going to affect the validity if it's not complete? On Makra Misolta is from its flour. That teaches me if you don't have all of its flour, it's not valid. The same as with the wine. A little bit of wine missing, it affects the whole thing. It says kacha. Kacha, the word kacha, it says in the pasuk, so you shall do. Kacha, so you shall do. And that's in Shlach when it talks about the libations. Hashem and miyutei makaves rubai. The oil, a small amount affects the majority. The minchas nesachim, kacha. Minchas nedavar makra mishamna. By the minchas nesachim, which is the flour and oil that come along with the animal offering. So it says, so you shall do. And by a donation offering, where you have oil, it says from its oil. Shimchisa kol shu psula. Hashem and vasel smakim zeh. The oil and the flour, they affect the validity of one another. It says misolta mishamna, migirsha mishamna. It says it twice. It says it by the oimer. It says from its flour and oil, and it says by other menachos, it says from its flour and oil, and that tells me that they affect one another.
Why?
When it's repeated, that tells me that it's not just something that you should do, but if it's repeated, it tells me why. Why did I have to say it a second time? The first one was to tell me that you should do it. The second time tells me that if you don't do it, you're in trouble. That it affects the validity. The scoop in the flour and the frankincense affect the validity of one another. It says al kol levainasa, and it says again veis kol levaina sher la mincha, and all of the levaina which is on the mincha, which tell me that they're connected, and the repetition tells me that it affects the validity. Okay, the next Mishnah, very similar to the Mishnah we just had, and we're going to have again psukim afterwards, but the next one is going to be more elaborate. It says Shnei Siri Yom Kippur Matman Zeh. The two goats on Yom Kippur, the one that's pushed off the cliff and the one that goes to as a sacrifice to Hashem, they affect one another. It means if one of them is missing, you have to bring it. Possibly you even have to bring another two. Shnei Kivsei Atzeres Matman Zeh, the two lambs, the two sheep that are brought on Shavuos, they affect the validity. Bais Chales Matman Zuasu. You also bring two loaves on Shavuos, two loaves of bread. Each one affects the validity of the other. Shnei Sedar Matman Zeh, the two piles of 6 challahs each that are on the showbread, on the table, they also affect the validity. Shnei Bazichen Matman Zeh, the 2 scoops of frankincense that are put on the table. You need both of them. Hasedarim Bazichen Matman Zeh, and then the scoop, the spoons of frankincense, and the breads affect one another. As you need to have both of them. The spoons get burnt, and the contents of the spoon, the frankincense, get burnt, and the showbread gets eaten. But if you don't have one of them, then the other one is not accepted.
The difference between this mission and the other mission, the first mission was talking about the smaller part and larger part, like of the same thing, right? And
yeah. Now we're talking about 2. Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Beis minim shebenazir. There's 2 types of breads with the nazir. One is chales and one is wafers. So those affect each other. Gimel shebepara. There's 3 things that are wrapped together by the paraduma. It's the grass, the hyssop grass, and the cedar wood, and a scarlet thread. They affect. You need all 3, or else it's no good. B'dalad shebetoida, there's 4 types of bread by a toida that you need all 4 types. The flat ones and this ones with all different types. B'dalad shebelulav, this we know, there's 4 things that come along with the lulav, right? The hadassim, the ravas, and esrog. If you're missing one, you don't have, it's not the mitzvah. Arba sheb-mitzayra. The mitzayra also has the cedar, the scarlet thread, and he also has the birds, and he also has the hyssop, and he also has the birds. That's the 4th one. Makrin zeh. Sheva zay shebapara, the 7 sprinklings of the bull. That is this the paraduma, or is this some other sacrifice? The red heifer? Mm-hmm. Paraduma. Okay. Yeah, it's supposed to be sprinkled opposite the entranceway. So you need to do all 7. Zayin azoy shal bein abadim shal aprechos shal mizbach hazav makvazu azu. The 7 sprinklings that are done between the staffs of the ark on Yom Kippur, which is from the bull and from the goat, on the parechas, and on the golden altar. From those 2 sacrifices affect one another. Okay, we're going to go through. Shnei Siri Yom Kippur, the Gemara says, Shnei Siri Yom Kippur Matman Zeh. How do we know that Yom Kippur, it affects if you don't have one, the other one is no good? Chukah says it's a statute. Shnei Kivsei Atzeres Matman Zeh, the 2 lambs of Shavuos. Havaya, it says Tiyana. I think it says Tiyana. No, it says Kodesh Yiyu L'Hashem. They shall be. The fact that it says they shall be, that means that's how it has to be. Shtei Chalis, the 2 loaves, also says Havaya. The be, the is, be, are. Here it says tihiyana. They shall be. The loaf shall be. Shnei sidarim. The two rows of lechem, of the showbread. Over there it says chukah. Shnei bazichen, 2 spoons of frankincense, chukah. Hasidarim v'bazichen, that they affect one another, the loaves and the frankincense, it says chukah. Shnei binim shem benazir, diksev kenyase, the 2 loaves of the nazir, it says so it shall be. Gimel shebapara, it says chukah. That we know it says chukah. That's the big famous chukah. Arba shebetayda, how do we know the 4 loaves of a tayda affect one another? The iskish lenazir, diksev al zevach tayda shlama. It says by the taida of the peace offering, of his peace offering, V'amar Shlama Rabbi Shalmi Nazir, that it's the shlamav by the taida is learnt to the Shalmi Nazir. The amount that you need for the Nazir is the same as the amount that you need for the taida, and it says by both Shalmei, so that's how we connect them, and the taida we said it says, I'm sorry, by the Nazir it says, by the Nazir it says Kenyase, so too by the taida it's Ma'akiv. Arba Shem Mitzayra, the Ksiv Zayis Tia Ter Shem Mitzayra, it says Tia, it shall be. Dalit Shebalulav, the 4 of the Lulav, it says L'kachtem L'kichatama, it says you shall take, L'kachtem, shall take them. And the tem, the Gemara learns, Lakicha Tama. The Gemara divides up the word, that it needs to be complete. It means that you need to have all 4. The Gemara also learns that each one needs to be complete. It can't be missing. Lakicha Tama. The Gemara says also, we're going to learn in 2 days, it's going to talk about Uchsavtam. That you need to be ksiva tama. The letters need to be complete. You see, it's a suffix that it's a object suffix. You shall write them. But a lot of the suffixes are subject. You know, I gave, or something. Nasati, that's I gave. Sometimes, but it could be. It's a suffix that means I gave him. I gave you nasaticha, right? There's an object at the end, nasaticha. So you get a full sentence in Hebrew in one word. So ulakachtem is you shall take them. No, I'm sorry. 1 second. Ulakachtem is not you shall take them. Ulakachtem is you shall take. You. Yeah, you shall take. It's a plural you. I'm sorry. Ukshar tam. The tam is has both in there. The tem is just a you plural. Okay. So this tells me that tama, that it needs to be complete. Amar Rav Chana bar Rava lo yishanu ela she'ein lo. This Gemara is very interesting. When does it mean that you need to have all 4 species of the lulav? That's only that. When would it be a problem? That's only if you don't have them. Aval yesh lo, but as long as you have them, ein ma'akvin, then you don't really need it. You follow this?
Yeah.
So the Tosfos springs from the Bahag that you don't need to lift them all up together, according to this. You lift up one at a time in your Yaitza. He brings from the Halachas Kedelos. Halachas Kedelos is, we don't really know. It's one of the Gainim, Reb Shimon Kaira, or it's Rabbi Yehuda Gain, Rabbi Yudai Gain. Yeah, that's what he says. Tosfos then himself, Rabbi Natam, says that that's not what it means. That you do need to take it together. The only thing is you don't have to tie them, but they all have to be in your hand. You see, according to the Bahag, what this Gemara means is you just lift it up and put it down, lift it up and put it down. That would explain why we don't hold them all by the bracha. Be a concern for the Bahag, that if you did pick them all up, not even to take it out of the box and put it down, because you've already, it could be, I didn't look into this, but according to the Bahag, just lifting it up and putting it down, all of them, even at different points, would have been the mitzvah. Okay. Meisvei. Dalid minim shabalulav. The 4 types of the lulav. Beis, me'amais, and pears. 2 of them make fruits. Which two make fruits? The esrog and the lulav. Dates and a citron. Bais memenos and pears. Two don't make fruits. The myrtle and the willow. Ha'is and pears use a cooking l'she'enoisin. Those that make fruits are needed to those that don't make fruits. She'enoisin pears use a cooking l'oisin pears. And those that don't make fruits are needed to those that make fruits. It shows how everyone is important, regardless of how productive they are. And a person does not fulfill his obligation until they're all bound together. And the same thing the Jewish people, the way that God is appeased by them, is they all need to be together. You like this Gemara? Okay. Who builds in the heaven his abode, and his tying in his bond together on the earth makes them supported, a foundation. Another Gemara says Tanai. There's really a machlokes how this is done, if this needs to be done. The Tanya was taught in a Bais. Lulav bein agad bein shagad kosher. The first opinion says that it doesn't need to be wrapped. The lulav, we tie the lulav and it all together, not with the esrog, but the myrtle and the other one we tie in the willow we tie together. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer agad kosher shein agad pasur. Rabbi Yehuda says if it's not tied, it's puzzle. My time with the Rabbi Yehuda. What's the reason that it needs to be tied? It says you take the species. He says Gomer kicha kicha me'aguda seizer. He learns it from the red heifer. Over there it says that you have to. No, not from the red heifer. When they went out of Egypt, it says over there that they should take the grass and they should tie it together. You should take over a grass and you should dip it in the blood. A bundle of grass, and use it to paint on the doorpost. Okay, so that over there it says it needs to be a bundle. That means it needs to be tied. And it says bayasal lakachtem. It says you need to take it. Over there it says lakachtem. You need to take it. So mala halon baguda, just like over there when they left Egypt, they needed to be bound. Afkan baguda. Over here also the four species need to be bound. See, we're learning from context what the word lakachtem. What does it mean? You take it. So over there we understand that it means that it says right afterwards that it needs to be bound. Over here it doesn't say that, but we understand from there that that's what it should mean. Because we have a precedent, that's what it means. Rabbanan legamri kicha kicha. They don't learn those two words, teach me that. Kaman azla hadatanya, according to who does it go the following brisa, so we're going to have an intermediate thing here. The rabbis say there's no such thing as binding it. The Rabbi Yehuda says, if you don't bind it, it's puzzle. Now we have a brisa that seems to be somewhere in the middle. It says lulav mitzvah lagdai. It's a mitzvah to bind it, the lulav. Bim lagdai kosher, but if you didn't bind it, it's kosher. Come on, who does this go like? Ik Rabbi Yehuda. If it's like Rabbi Yehuda, lagdai my kosher. If you don't bind it, if it's not bound, why is it kosher? He holds it's puzzle. Irabanan. If it's the rabbis, my mitzvah. What is the mitzvah? It doesn't say anywhere that you have to do that. It says Leilam Narbanan, and really it is the rabbis. My mitzvah, what is the mitzvah? Mishum Zakeli Van Veyo. Because you're supposed to beautify the mitzvahs. Beautify the mitzvahs, it looks better if it's bound together. Even according to the rabbis, I don't have a source for that.
It's a deep Chassidic word here.
The Zakeli Van Veyo?
You're saying that all the Jews look beautiful before Hashem, we're all bound together.
Right.
Beautifying the mitzvah. No Jew left behind.
See, even according to the opinion that you don't need to be bound, but everyone agrees that it's a mitzvah to be bound. Sheva hazois, sheva paramak v'zuazu. The 7 sprinklings of the red heifer, they affect the validity of another. It says chukah. Sheva hazois shal bein abadim shal mizbach hazav shal apreches mak v'zuazu. All those sprinklings of Yom Kippur, of those, or the other animals that are brought inside the sanctuary. The Yom Kippurim, the Ksiv Chukah. By Yom Kippur, it says it's a statute. The Par Kohen Mashiach, when the Kohen Gadol does an Aveira, or the Par Helm Davar Shal Tzibor, the community does Aveira, or the Sirah Avedis Kavim, or if the community worships idols in a way that they thought was permissible. They said this is not considered a service. So those are sacrifices that the blood is sprinkled in the sanctuary, not outside, not in the courtyard. Kedetanias, it's taught in a Brisa who says that those are all makiv. Vasalapar kasha salapar. You will do for the bull what you did for the bull. Ma Talmud Laimar. Why does it have to say that? It already said everything by each of the sacrifices. Why do it have to say you'll do for this one what you did for that one when it says it by this one all the details? Lichpal ba'azayis. It's coming to double it to tell me that if you missed one of the sprinklings, you didn't do anything. The 7 sprinklings of the red heifer, if they were done without the right intention, or they were done in the wrong direction, they weren't facing. You see, you're not in the temple when you're doing this. You're on the mountain opposite the Temple Mount. You have to sprinkle it towards. If it wasn't correct, in the right direction, psules. R'shebifnim. Those that are sprinkled inside, usheb mitzayra, or the sprinklings of the mitzayra. Which sprinklings are this? Because the mitzayra has a few things. He sprinkles from the oil corresponding to the Kodesh Kodashim. Shalei Lishman, if it's done for the wrong intention, it's psulis. Shalei Mechavanis, if he does it in the wrong direction, that's kosher. Okay, so we have a difference between the Para Aduma, the wrong direction, and the other sacrifices that are done in the wrong direction, or the oil of the mitzvah. V'atanya Gabi Para Shalei Lishman psulis. We have another brisa that says regarding the red heifer that if it's done for the wrong intention, it's puzzle. That's no problem. That's what we said before as well. Shalei mechavanis is ksheres, but with the wrong direction, you said it's kosher. The brisa before said the wrong direction is puzzle. So Rav Chisda lekasha, Rabbi Yehuda harabanan. It's machlekes, and the machlekes is a long brisa, which at the end of the brisa it's going to say what the word el means. Does it mean that it needs to be specific, or is it just in general? And that's how we're going to explain this contradiction. We'll have to stop at the brisa.
Yeah.